What is going on, kiddos? Free Rotation Podcast, we're back for another episode, and today, instead of talking about some book from South Georgia, we're going to get into aliens and conspiracies and fun things that we normally talk about.
Oh, yeah, because, books from South Georgia are real and aliens aren't.
How dare you?
And the government says aliens are real, so you can eat a dick.
Mm.
But yeah, so if you follow this at all, there have been a lot of recent disclosures of government files and things relating to what were called UFOs back in the day, and now we're UAPs, and you get into government agencies. Like there was one called Arrow that eventually became renamed ATIP that Lou Elizondo was in charge of and then not in charge of. It's a nightmare of strings to follow. But because of that, they here lately there are, and this has been in the past like 3 or 4 years, 14 scientists that are missing that were either working on supposed like back engineering UAP technology or converting UAP tech into things we can use. A lot of them came from Los Alamos, which is basically where Bob Lazar was working back in the 80s. A lot of them came from JPL, which is the NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab, which God only knows what all's going on. But 14 scientists that are related to that are missing or dead. I think 10 of them are dead. I think there's just 4 that are missing. And their deaths are really, they're odd. They're people that have like, I'm never going to commit suicide. And then, suicide. So it's just been real strange to the point of where the White House is like, yeah, we need to do research into this because these people should not be just gone. And some of them are. And it's really, really, really strange that these high-level scientists are just disappearing. Like, one of them was out for a hike with her friend, and he didn't look at her for 5 minutes, and she's just gone. Like, no body, no
And she was
nothing.
wearing a bright red shirt, so
Yeah.
they can't find her. I mean, I'm looking for my cat, so we may be able to find her.
They found her scarf like a mile away from the trail, but that's all they found. Like, no shoes, no footprints, no body, no nothing. And
But Chris, this is where I get conflicted because the Sasquatch could have taken her. I'm kidding.
So here's where my craziness comes in. I think they have access to basically teleportation technology. I think they have finally figured out how to back engineer the crafts because, and I say teleportation because there's not a better word for it. The issue with like us going to, let's say the next galaxy or whatever, is it's 100 million light years away. Even if you can travel at the speed of light, that's 100 million years to get there. So it's not a reasonable trip to take. Like for any living being, you have to, it's generational, So the only way to get around that is to basically bend space-time and basically take the 2 separate locations, have them connect for a moment, and then just step across.
Okay, everybody slow down. Because I have no idea what you guys are talking about. All I know is you just talked about teleporting aliens and Bigfoot. So could we start from maybe the beginning for some of us who enjoy true crime and think aliens are weird?
So the beginning would be, if there are aliens, if you believe there's other life forms in the universe, for them to get here, or for us to get to them, the distances are so great that it would be thousands of generations of just traveling people or whatever breeding, and then the next generation take over, and then the next generation. Because you can't, at the speed of light, at 186,000 miles per second, it's still going to take you 100 million years to get anywhere, right? Just because the universe is so large and our closest thing is so far. That's not a reasonable expectation. Like, you just can't travel that way. So, the prevailing idea is that if there are extraterrestrial or non-human intelligence that are coming here to observe us or help us or hurt us or whatever, they can't travel that way. So they either have to be much, much closer, like in our solar system, in our galaxy, in the Milky Way, or they have to be able to bend space-time to make those distances not matter.
Which is really what quantum physics is built on. The idea that everything exists at the same time in the same space.
Well, we know like everything exists as a wave. So like sound, light, physical motion, everything, you, me, we're all wave functions. At the smallest level, our atoms are just waves. They're just moving. So if there was a way to interact with the waves of space and time and control how you wanted to step across, you could just travel wherever, right? It wouldn't matter. Time and distance wouldn't really matter at that point because you're just going from point A to point B instantly.
Yeah.
You're just stepping across.
Think of it like a sound mixer, Becky, where you've got all three of our voice audios and they exist separately. And then you take them and you make them a stereo sound. We're all mono, but then you take three things and you say, these are all the same. That's essentially what we're talking about. Wormholes.
I mean, that's the idea with wormholes, is it just connects the two places in space. But the idea with like UFOs or UAPs or whatever is that they can control the creation and collapse of those wormholes. So they can step through to wherever and whenever they want, basically.
Okay. I mean,
so I say teleportation because it's the closest thing we can really think of like that, where you just step from one place to another. But it's
so
not
like
really
phasing through like multi-dimensions is basically what you're talking about.
I don't think it's necessary. I think that's part of it. I think the dimensions are part of it. But I think this is more just phasing through space, like through actual distance. Like you're taking 100,000 miles and making it feel like it was one step. So, and I think that is what they have been trying to back engineer for the longest time, because again, it's not a matter, for me, it's not a matter is there life in the universe? Because there's no way we're the only things. Like, it's just too vast, it's too expansive. But for whatever reason, be it the technology that these civilizations have on their natural planets, or their fact that they're, maybe 100 billion years ahead of us advanced, they have the ability to do that. They can step through where we can't. And when you talk about, like, Los Alamos field, and once you can control gravity waves, you kind of control space.
Going back and talking about this lady, she had taken that element and she had created a new metal alloy. And I know it's not Mongolian, but I can't get the word out of my head.
Moscovium.
Yeah. So, and it's basically pretty much indestructible. Think about all the sci-fi, Wolverine things you've heard of. She actually was able to invent it. It goes inside a rocket for the propulsion. And then she just disappears and all of her work is gone. There's no photos of it anywhere.
So I think you're talking about Ning Li. She was Chinese.
The lady from New Mexico.
Oh, well, this lady is Chinese and she worked for NASA for a while. She quit NASA, started her own company that was called, I think, CS Gravity, because she said she had mastered anti-gravity. She worked in northern Alabama for like 4 years and then just disappeared and took off. And the prevailing theory is that she took the technology to China, but no one's sure because she's just gone. But that's been kind of I know it sounds weird as an arms race, but it really has been the real arms race for the past, probably since the 30s, is if you control gravity, you kind of control everything. Because you can make force fields that bullets can't. I mean, if you control the gravity, bullets can't go through it. Even you think about like black holes, light can't escape gravity when it's so large. So if you can control that, you kind of take over everything. And I think we have, at this juncture, gotten to a point where we, even if we can't back engineer it, we have re-engineered it into a way that is useful for us. And I think they're just, for lack of a better word, kidnapping these scientists. Because they're just disappearing. Like, they're just gone. And you talk about, like, Amy Eskridge was one of the scientists that she's super popular right now because she was talking about all this. And she complained of, it's a weird thing called Havana syndrome, where the CIA apparently had weapons that were basically controlled radioactivity. So you could just, like, cook somebody through their walls, like with a ray gun, basically, from outside their house. And she was complaining of a lot of that and the symptoms, and said that, she was being followed, and then she just committed suicide randomly.
I believed in things. I saw something when I was a kid. I was 7 years old. I would always stay up and read Sweet Valley High books through the moonlight at the window. And one night when I was reading it, I saw something that I can't explain. I thought maybe as I got older I'd figure it out, but it was like the thing flying so low over the treetops it made no noise. Yes, I saw something. I can't explain it.
I think a lot of people. I think if you were just to go out and lay out in the middle of like the desert at night and just watch, you'd see a lot of things you couldn't explain. I think it's far more common than people think, and I think at night, because of either cloud cover or light pollution or the fact that we just don't pay attention anymore, we just don't notice it anymore. Like, we just can't see it, and maybe it is because they're cloaked or they're stepping in and out of space-time, you know? But I think if you just go out there and look up, you'd see a lot of things moving around that don't make any damn sense. But because of the missing scientists, the White House has issued an investigation into all this. And it's coming at a weird time when, like, we've had, for the past few years, we've had disclosure with David Grush and Stephen Greer and these people going in front of Congress and saying, hey, there's a lot of missing money, and it's going to these black programs that don't really exist, and they're going to basically private entities, which I firmly believe that if we have, like, you know, alien technology and it's being worked on, I think the government's way too leaky to keep that quiet, but I think private industry could do it. I don't think you could have some lowly government worker, like, keeping his mouth shut about this stuff, but you could have, you know, some guy that you can tell, hey, we're going to have you work on this UFO. I need you to figure out how it flies. And if you ever say anything, we're going to hire some militants to come murder you and your family. And at that point, you're just like, oh, well, I guess I'm never going to say anything. Like, it's easier to do that as a private company than as the government.
It is worth asking yourself why, the people who do the work, why, all of our companies are owned by private equity firms.
Yeah, well, it's control. I really do. I think it's control and the ability to silence people who get out of line. I mean, was it like 2 years ago, the Boeing executive dude, the whistleblower, just died in his car randomly? Like,
Just randomly.
he was fine until he mentioned that they were kind of skimping on safety, and then suddenly, murder.
Murder.
And then, I mean, Boeing's one of these, Boeing, Lockheed Martin, they apparently, EE&G, there's a bunch of these private entities that have a stake in whatever this technology is. Like, I don't claim to know. I think once you can control gravity and space-time, you do get to a point of, like, 0-point energy, where if you were to release 0-point energy to the public, a lot of the world's billionaires and these companies that are worth trillions basically go broke overnight. Because they can control the power, they control everything.
Right, and this is what a lot of these scientists were saying, even the ones, so you could argue that these scientists started being killed back in the 80s. And, a lot of them are saying, we know carbon energy is primitive, but it is where the money is.
Of course. I mean, that's the thing is, like, you think about, like, OTEP and the UAE and even America selling their oil. Like, a lot of people stand to lose a ton of money if we stop relying on oil and coal. Like, it's not a minuscule amount of people. It is a lot of folks will go out of business. I mean, even here, like Georgia Power and a Southern Company and all those, they lose trillions overnight if you release that, which sucks. But they should. And we look at it as it's for the betterment of humanity, but they don't care about that. They just care about stockholders and cool. I made $2 billion last month. But anyways, getting back to disclosure and the White House releasing all the UAP files, I say all. They've released 160, I think, so far, and they're just releasing them in, like, waves. So, because of the missing scientists, that has become forefront amongst the UFO communities, and the UFO community is it's an eclectic bunch of people. Some of them are super reasonable, and some of them are batshit insane.
I don't think we have, to be fair, we went to a Bigfoot conference and got chased out of it because they thought that we were making fun of them. They were making Bigfoot calls.
Yeah, it's the same group of people, sorta. But even with UFOs, it seems like it's more crazy. Um,
I think it's
it's
just
just
because it's more prevalent. Like, I think you have a lot more people who buy into, I think the majority of people buy into the fact that they're aliens, but there are people who take it to a whole different level of kooky beans.
well, it's going now because it has become so mainstream and prevalent that instead of aliens, a lot of and I'm just gonna say the Christian right is saying it's demons and not something else, not another living organism. It's just demons that are attacking people. I don't know. It's really odd. I don't understand where that idea comes from, other than they're trying to make it biblical, which is, whatever. It's just real odd to me that, like, I don't need it to be supernatural for things to exist that we don't understand, because we find new species every day. We don't understand most of our oceans, so why would we begin to understand everything in space?
A couple of the scientists who've gotten killed, and Chris, I can't remember their names, but they were working on Earth defense systems, future Earth defense. And so you also have this, and I hate to say the word conspiracy theory, but you have this theory that a lot of the scientists, and some of them have, right, especially the last one, she came out and said something terrible is on the way, and gives us what, 2027?
That's what
And
a lot of people are saying, 2027.
yeah, because that's when the asteroid is supposed to just barely miss us. I can't remember the name of the asteroid either. Y'all know how I am with names. But there's an idea that these people are the ones who are like, hey, this asteroid is coming, and
Well, even like Lou Elizondo, who was, I know I'm saying a lot of these guys' names, but he was in charge of ATIP, which was basically they were searching for the files and the hidden stuff that had to do with UFOs within the government. And they were interviewing, scientists and going to the CIA and FBI and going to all these agencies and being like, hey, we need to see your files on UFOs or extraterrestrials or crash retrieval programs or biologics or entities or whatever you got, we need to see. And even he, who, when he does interviews, he's like, hey, I've signed NDAs for some of this stuff. I can't release it. But even he's like 2027. Like, there's no getting around it, which sounds good, but they've been doing that forever, where they'll say, hey, we're going to know everything in 2021 and 2023 and 1994. And it's this never ending string of there's going to be disclosure, and it never happens.
Here's my thing. I hope the meteor comes for different reasons than I think most people
Yeah.
want. I'm pretty sure I'm just ready for the global eradication of humankind. But I mean, if there's an alien behind it for whatever reason, I'm down for it too.
I don't think it's going to be that. I don't think it's eradication. I don't know.
well, considering a lot of these people work in propulsion, they could be looking for, like, building something to get certain peoples off of here. And if you have an extinction level event, people, if you release the information, they have this idea that people will stop going to work. They'll give up. It'll basically become the purge. I mean, what do you have to lose? And if I could go kill somebody and we're all dead in a year? I mean, I wouldn't personally, probably.
So I have my own theory about what it is, and I'll be honest. I was talking to my wife about this. I think that what it actually amounts to is, no matter who you are or what you are, whatever the next realm of existence for us is once you die, I think everybody gets to go. I don't think it matters if you're Hitler or Gandhi or anything in between. I don't think necessarily what you do on Earth matters. I think if you have this energy that transfers, I think it transfers regardless.
I don't even think it matters if it's even a global eradication event. I think even like we've talked about, like, say you just destroy technology to a base level, most people can't survive. Think about when the power goes out. How fast are people on, like, Facebook, and they're like, when is the
Yeah.
power coming back? When? I can't do this, I can't do that, I haven't been able to use the bathroom, I haven't been able to wash my clothes, I haven't been able to do that.
So I think that would happen for a few weeks. So what you're describing would basically be like a large EMP event where none of the power grid works, none of the electronics work, and we're back to basically being hunter gatherers.
That's what EMP. I kept wanting to say UFC, and I'm like, that is
Yeah.
incorrect.
I think it would be bad. It would be horrible for 6 weeks, 2 months, and I think everything would settle down after that because the people that were dead would just be dead, and then everyone else would be, whoever's left, planting gardens and kind of sticking to their own little groups. And I think we've been through that probably a bunch of times. I think as a human species, we've been through worldwide cataclysms that knocked us back that point a bunch of times. I think it's cyclical. I think that's what happened at like Gobekli Tepe. I think that's why it was purposely buried. I think these people lived, you know, relatively for the time they were pretty advanced, and then something happened, be it the little ice age or the Halcyon comet event, and it was a world cataclysm that knocked us back to, okay, we don't have time to cut stone into these images. We need to plant wheat and harvest it, and we'll come back to these things once we get stable again. So I think we've been through that as a species more than once, and I don't think the government would care enough about us to stop that. I don't think they really care if we kill each other. I don't think that matters to them at all.
No, you're just culling the masses.
Yeah, I think they would actually be pretty okay with that scenario because I don't think they would suffer from it based on the current understanding of the underground bunkers that they have built throughout the country and the world. I think they would believe they're fine. So I don't see that being the problem.
Okay, y'all keep talking about these missing scientists. Could we get some background on it? I think we could. I mean, I think we could. What is it? Wax poetic about the existence of aliens, pretty much for an entire episode. But I know that that was something both of y'all were interested in. I know Angie was listening to it earlier, talking about it, and I don't know anything about it.
So I'm going to go through the list right now and kind of give you who they all are in a quick summary. So there are, I think, 14 of them. So we have, I took notes on this. Ning Li, who was...
Good job. You took notes. I'm so
Yeah.
proud of you. Look at you writing things down.
Paying attention. Worked for the University of Alabama. She was the one that said that she had discovered anti-gravity. And she founded the AC Gravity Company in Alabama. And then, again, I think 4 years after she created it, she just took off. They think she went back to China because she was a Chinese national that was working at... So it says she worked for the University of Alabama. There are a bunch of conflicting stories that say she was working for JPL, the Jet Propulsion Lab, and then she figured out anti-gravity, left there, started her own company, was a professor at the University of Alabama, and then disappeared. It says online, if you try to look her up, that she has died from Alzheimer's, but I don't think there's a bit of proof of that. Like, no one even knows where she went. So, like, saying she died of Alzheimer's is kind of a stretch when you don't know where she's at. Amy Eskridge is the one that's super popular right now. She supposedly worked at Los Alamos, but I don't know that I've seen any actual proof of that. She was really big into anti-gravity as well. She was also from Alabama somehow. I don't know how Alabama keeps... I mean, I know there's a NASA place in Alabama, but, like, a lot of random Alabamas in here. She was the one that was...
Who would ever expect somebody out from Alabama, though, to be fair?
You're not kidding. She's the one that was complaining about whoever she thought it was, the CIA or whatever agency that was hitting her with the radiation gun, because she said that she was in weird pain and that her insides were basically cooking, and it was just a whole big thing, and that's Havana syndrome, which, if you're interested, you can also look that up. But she also is dead, and they said suicide, but, like, who knows? There's Michael David Hicks. He was a scientist at JPL. He also is dead. They say that he died of heart disease, is what the internet says. But specifically, his family never released his cause of death, and the coroner never released his cause of death. So, like, I don't know how they're getting to these conclusions. It's really weird that they're just like, nope, it was heart disease. And it's like, well, the coroner never said that. His death certificates never said that, and his family has never mentioned how he died.
Did they... Well, okay. Is there ever been any sort of... anybody come out and say, like, we don't know what he died of, and then it was just like, well, it's heart disease?
That's what I can't find any actual proof that that's what happened. Like, it's just, if you Wikipedia the dude, it's like deceased from heart disease, but his family specifically didn't say what happened. His daughter mentioned that he had an ongoing medical issue, but that's all she said. So, like, maybe it was heart disease. I don't know, but there's no evidence of that. It's just, that's what somebody said, so that's what we're sticking with.
Yeah, and it's like the one guy who has spent, he was the Harvard law degree, worked with the government. I mean, Becky, his resume is just, he would be the who's who in the world. Like, number one, he was, I think, 76, and they were like, yeah, he struggled with bipolar disorder. That's what happened to him.
Yeah.
Like, when has that ever made you drop dead of something? And so they have him on CCTV the last day he was seen because he's scared.
But and then he goes to the finishes his trip, and he's paranoid. He's looking out the windows. Then he just disappears.
Yeah, he's just gone. Again, I don't know if these people, and supposedly, like with Amy Eskridge, she was in touch with some of these people who are currently missing and warning them that it was going to happen. Like, it's just this really weird, I don't know, it's real odd. Matt Sullivan, who worked in the Air Force, supposedly worked on retrieval stuff, on search and rescue, suicide. That's how he died. There's Frank Maywald, worked for the Surface Water and Ocean Topography and Imaging Spectroscopy Engineer at JPL.
I'm sorry, sir. What did you say?
This is what he did. He was a Surface Water and Ocean Topography and Imaging Spectroscopy Engineer at JPL, at Jet Propulsion Labs.
Oh, that's right. He's the one who, like, determined if there's water that is livable on other planets.
Yeah. So he just dead. No reason, no cause, just dead.
Just done for.
Yeah.
A lot of these people just shot on their front porch for no reason.
That kid and he's not part of this, but that kid the other kid up in Harvard that was working for a professor that was apparently robbed and murdered outside his apartment when he was working on energy problems, and nothing was stolen.
Right, expensive watch, wedding ring. It was a robbery.
Shot 3 times and left for dead, but no one stole anything.
Yeah.
Anthony Chavez, he was a construction foreman who worked at Los Alamos, which is where they're supposedly back engineering the alien craft, or they were at some point. He's just gone. Like, no one knows what happened to this dude. Just disappeared. Monica Jacinto Reza, she was a metallurgist and materials engineer at JPL. Again, a lot of these have to do with them trying to back engineer.
She's the one who found the alloy.
Yeah, if they
the Mongolian.
Moscovian. If they really think it's element 115, they think it's a stable version that doesn't exist on Earth, but it may exist somewhere else. So that's what they're trying to really engineer. We've proven that it's possible, and they have synthesized it in the Large Hadron Collider, but only for like 1/14,000th of a second, because it just degrades so fast. And they haven't supposedly don't have a stable version yet. She was one of the ones that was hiking. She's the one that was just gone. Like, she was hiking with people at a place that she has hiked many times and just disappeared. Like, no rhyme or reason. She's just gone. So yeah, there are some YouTube videos about her right now that are making the rounds that are pretty interesting. And you can look where she disappeared, like where her last known sighting was, and it's technically the Angeles National Forest. It is not a forest where she disappeared. It's just wide the hell open. Like, you can see for hundreds of yards in every direction.
Yeah.
There's no way she just disappeared. Like, even if she took off sprinting and you turned around after like 5 minutes, you'd be like, where the hell is she going?
Unless she took like lessons from Bigfoot on how to just disappear.
And her specifically is why I think they're just grabbing people.
The way she just popped out in nowhere, like literally seems like mid-step.
Yeah, she's just like, literally, if she took off sprinting and you turned around after 5 minutes, you're like, where the hell is she going?
Yeah, I saw this map of the U.S. and it had like the disappearances and deaths, and it was very clear the 3 territories are aerospace defense, nuclear defense, and technology, where they're making propulsion technological advances.
Yeah, and I think you have to have all of those together. Like, I don't think you can.
Mm-hmm.
I think the problem they had for the past 70, 80 years of them trying to back engineer this stuff was they tried to keep it so separated from everything else. Like, I think they kept the metallurgists away from the propulsion people. And I don't think that yielded any results. So I think they started having to put them together and figure out how these things work in synchronicity or whatever. And then they started making really good advances. Because again, if you understand how the propulsion works, but not how to apply it to whatever material you're using, that's not very good. Like, you're not getting anywhere. But yeah, she's the one that, like, literally, there's no way she just disappeared. It's not a thing.
Or the scientist who was smoked like, 8 packs of cigarettes, and I'm being dramatic, but I think it was like 4 packs of cigarettes a day. He just walks out of his house without his cigarettes. And that's when people are being like, wait a minute, I can see walking out without your cell phone, but not your cigarettes.
Yeah.
Like, this is where people draw the line, Becky.
As someone who smoked cigarettes for, the better part of 20 years, you don't just leave the house without them when you're smoking them. It's not a thing.
Right. And then somebody else disappeared without their prescription glasses. Yeah. And people are like, these are things you don't leave your house without.
Yeah. I left my house without my wallet, but not without my cigarettes. Like, it's just not forgettable. It's literally a biological imperative because of the addiction that you bring them.
Mm-hmm.
So you just don't forget them.
And people who wear glasses, like, that's literally the first thing I see Becky put on in the morning.
That's literally because I can't see.
Mm-hmm.
We have Melissa Casillas. She was an assistant at Los Alamos Natural Laboratory. Also just gone. No one has a clue what happened. Her relatives say she was under a bunch of stress. When pressed about whether or not she just, like, ran away, because no one knows what happened to her. The New Mexico State Police said that she may have left of her own free will, but what the hell does that mean? Like, may have? Like, sure. Like, that's also the case until you prove otherwise forever.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and she was an admin assistant, but she had top-level security clearance.
Yeah, a lot of these people are dealing with things that I think if you brought it into, like, the general public's knowledge, they wouldn't believe they were real. But a lot of these people say they were, and this is what they dealt with. So it's just like, whatever. There was Steven Garcia. He was apparently a custodian at one of the secure places in Kansas City. He's just gone. Like, there's no rhyme or reason to it. Homeboy just took off. I don't know why he is associated with this, but he's just gone. Kansas City Security Campus, they make a lot of the structure and the equipment that goes into nuclear facilities and subs and stuff like that. So God only knows what else they're making. But he's associated with it for some reason. I can't figure out why, other than the place he worked may be associated with the material science behind what's going on. Jason Thomas was the director of chemical biology at Novartis. He drowned.
That's, like, really specific.
Yeah. He died. He drowned at. Again, this is up in Massachusetts, so I'm going to murder this. Lake Quannapowitt. They stated there was
it's really impressive you could say that the first time, other than the word that you were saying earlier. That's actually a lot easier.
Yeah, I know. The medical examiner said there was no foul play, but his wife is like, he was pretty depressed and he was dealing with something, but she didn't know what. So, again, he may have just drowned. Some of these may just be actual accidental deaths, but who knows? Nuno Loureiro, he was a plasma physicist. He was the professor and leader of MIT Plasma Science and Fusion Center. So this is supposedly the guy who had made cold fusion, or made strides that made cold fusion possible, which is, again, we're getting back to 0-point energy. Like, if we can have room temperature fusion, we no longer need coal or oil. We can just have free energy forever. So supposedly he had made some sort of huge advancement on that, and then he was murdered. Just kind of, not alive anymore.
And just for people who wonder, what's cold fusion? So the way you get it right now is you heat it up to the point that it cycles very, very, very quickly and then breaks apart. And boom, you have fusion. Cold fusion allows you to break it, but more calmly and more controlled. So it isn't the huge fusion explosion like in nuclear weapons and such.
Yeah, the idea is that, like, when you break the bonds in an atom, there's a huge release of energy. But it takes so much energy to get that to happen, and so much heat, and that's kind of what they're doing at, like, you look at CERN and the Large Hadron Collider. The idea is that they're spinning these particles around so fast, and they're slamming them into each other, that weird things will happen. Like, you'll create new elements for a moment, or you'll break these bonds, the covalent bonds or whatever, and you'll be able to release all this energy, which creates either new molecules or new elements or whatever. And it depends on which things you're, like, spinning super fast. So if you're spinning hydrogen, helium, oxygen, whatever molecules, you'll get different results because you're literally slamming them into other things. But again, if we can do that, cold fusion is basically the idea is that you're able to do that at room temperature without having to put all that energy into a machine to do it. Which, if we can do that, awesome. We no longer need energy from non-renewable sources anymore. Because supposedly a teaspoon of water, if you're able to remove the energy cold fusion style, has enough energy within literally a teaspoon of water with the H2O. We no longer need coal or oil or whatever. Just,
I see what you're talking about when you're talking about why this is such a big deal for like oil and coal and all of these people who have bought in for, hundreds, well, not hundreds, well, hundreds of years, not hundreds of years, like over 100 years at this point, on what our energy sources are. Hell, I mean, people are saying that wind energy gives you cancer just to, put it down.
Anything. Yeah. It's real weird that they're, and again, I don't think wind or solar is the solution, because these aren't permanent sources that can create enough energy for the amount of people we have here on Earth. Like, they're just not reasonable. Wind takes so much space to actually harness, and so much, I mean, it takes, a bunch of concrete and oil and to actually grease up the turbines and keep them going. I think it's something like 13 55-gallon drums of oil just to grease up the wind turbines. So you haven't even removed the need for the oil. You're using it in just a different way to create energy rather than just burning it for energy. That's not counting the quarter-acre concrete plots that you need to spike these things in so they don't fall over, which costs, between the trucks and the concrete itself, another 100 gallons of diesel. It's not a long-term solution.
Also pointing out, if you can harness this energy, the cold fusion, and think about what powers your body and your brain, you've almost found the keys to immortality at that point.
Yeah, it's real important that cold fusion is discovered, but it's real important to a lot of people that it is not. Which is, especially, it's important to people that have, when I say infinite money, I basically do mean infinite money and infinite resources, to stop that from becoming mainstream. Like, it's just, you're dealing with, and this is just like, there are sheiks in the Middle East who have more money than even the richest man in the world that is labeled the richest man in the world. We're dealing with probably trillionaires. How do you stop that person from, if there's something that's coming out that's $100 million to go slap my wife, I'm going to go slap her real hard. And for them, it's not real. It's literally just numbers in a system that they don't ever notice.
I'm going to totally cut that out of context and send it to Casey.
Go nuts. She knows. She knows what's up.
But when you think about it, we were talking about targeted weapons, how the government can point something at you, give you a heart attack. Targeted mind control, where they could control your mind through, this targeted weapon and have you do something out of the ordinary. And a lot of what these people are acting like and demonstrated is being victims of this targeted weaponry.
Yeah, and again, it's like Amy Eskridge, like she said flat out, they have this technology, they have used it, and she was almost certain they were using it on her. So she was telling a lot of these other people that are now missing, like, hey, this is what's going on. She was going online and doing like live chats with people.
Yeah, she hired a MI agent, like a retired
Yeah.
my 6 agent to protect her.
She knew what was going on and was very loud about it. But yes, Carl Grillmeyer, he worked at Caltech, astronomer and astrophysicist of exoplanets, galactic structure, and worked on dark matter. Also deceased from homicide. He was murdered in a carjacking, and someone was charged with it. That's where it is.
A carjacking that happened on his front porch, by the way.
Yeah. Like, someone was arrested, but that's where we're at with that. Like, there's no proof, whatever. It's just homeboy was robbed for his car on his porch, and then someone was arrested. They murdered him in the process. Josh LeBlanc was an electrical engineer at Marshall Space Flight Center, which is for NASA. Also died in an automobile accident outside of Huntsville, which is where the NASA stuff is. But, you know, another auto accident in Alabama. And then Major General William Neal McCasland. He was the commander of the Air Force Research Lab. He's missing. Like, he's the one that I think was the one with the glasses that just gone. Like, his wife, they think supposedly he went for a hike out his back door and just took off. No keys, no wallet, no glasses, just, I'm going to go for a walk, and then hasn't been found since.
I'm missing 411 of him.
Yeah, like, it's just, homeboy just took off and disappeared and hasn't, again, you would expect his body to have been found by now or something, but there's just nothing. He's just, but yeah, the Major General that just disappears at 68 is like, what? Like, he just wandered off. And again, he was married. Supposedly there was no, like, turmoil or anything crazy going on in his life. He was just a retired general. And
it would have made more sense at that point to be like he had dementia and he just wandered off instead, like the one guy who was like he had bipolar and just dropped dead.
Yeah, like, it's, well, the thing is, like, a lot of these, if it's not suicide, it's just, and again, I'm sure people die every day, but the circumstances are all just kind of fishy. Like, homeboy from Brown that was working on cold fusion, homeboy that was killed for his car that, you know, was on his porch, that was just hanging out on. Why are these, and again, it seems pretty like it's specifically people that are involved with energy.
And I think the Major General, didn't his biographer die unexpectedly like 2 days before him? Is that idea. Him? Yeah, one of them, they had a biographer who was doing work. Well, the biographer mysteriously dies and all of their work is, disappeared. Oh, it was just a computer glitch. I don't know.
Yeah, that sounds well, I mean, they're wiping hard drives and stuff, so why not? Because of all that, because of these missing scientists, and because of ATIP and the work they've been doing, and David Grush, like, again, if you don't know who David Grush is, you can find him on YouTube and a lot of the videos where he's been testifying before Congress. He was a government employee that was tasked with tracking down a lot of this missing money, and he's tracked it to these programs that are like search and rescue for downed ships, and he doesn't say extraterrestrial, I think, ever in any of his interviews. He always says NHI, or non-human intelligence, whatever the hell that means. I mean, technically octopus have NHI, so, like, what are we doing here? But they're also doing a lot of secret briefings with congressmen, and a lot of them are, like, real uncomfortable with what they've been finding out. So, like, one of them that's super in the news right now is Tim Burchett. He's a congressman. He's been doing a lot of backroom briefings, and again, these people they can't come out and say a lot of the stuff that they've seen because it's against the rules, but they can kind of give descriptions. Like, and the rules for this are real weird. You might be able to say, yes, I worked back engineering UAP product or UAP technology, but you can't say I worked for the US government at this location back engineering alien technology. Like, it's real odd. But, like, Burchett was quoted, this was a week or two ago, actually. Every alphabet agency there is, and I'll just tell you this, if they would release the things that I've seen, you would stay up, you'd be up at night worrying about it, thinking about this stuff. We just need to disclose it all. I'm sick of it. I was briefed. I'll just tell you this. I was briefed last week on an issue, or excuse me, 2 weeks ago, and it would have set the earth on, and then he stopped. The country would have come unglued, I think, if they would have heard all that I heard. They would demand answers, and we need to give answers. But it's never going to, unfortunately. It just keeps getting covered up and covered up, and these people that know are either dying or disappearing, as the case may be. And for the record, I'm not suicidal, and I don't take risks. So, like, it's
I
wild to me
like
that
that the guy literally is like, I just want it out there. Honestly, I would do the same thing. I would be like, I am not suicidal. I am not crazy. If I end up dead because I quote unquote committed suicide, it wasn't because I committed suicide. Somebody decided to commit suicide for me.
well, that's what Amy Eskridge said. Like, she's like, I'm not suicidal, and her death is like suicide. Everybody's like, okay, I guess it doesn't really matter if you say you're not suicidal, because if they say it was suicide, who's going to argue that's not your family or friends? Like, but it's weird to me that a congressman's coming out and saying, like, look, these people are either dead or being disappeared. I'm also not suicidal, and I don't want to die. I mean, that's 14 people that we know about that are associated with this. There could be 30 more. There's just no way for us to know unless really their families come out. And some of them are just like, again, the major general just kind of walking off into the great blue yonder for no reason with none of his stuff. What? Like, this isn't Kenny Veach in the M Cave out in the desert. Like,
Right, and you don't get to be a major general by walking off into the sunset and shirking your duties.
being unstable. Like, these are the most, again, typically when you get higher up in the government, these are the most rigor driven, straightforward, square as a box dudes in the world that are put together real neat. They're 5x5 all the time. They don't get out of line a lot. They're just not, that's not who they are. So for him to just be like, fuck it, I'm gone. I'm going to take off into the, I think he lived in California, but just take off into the woods and never be seen again. Like, that's not a thing. They tried to say when it first happened that he had taken his service revolver with him and they thought he had committed suicide. But his wife came out pretty quick. I was like, nah, his gun's here. He didn't do that. And again, even if he did, like, you'd find a body. Like, where is homeboy gone? So I really do think, I think they have cracked, and again, I'm going to say teleportation again, because I think that's the closest right word I can use. I think they've cracked it, and they're kind of removing anybody that was involved.
And we know they were close because, what was it, 5 years?
Yep.
But the thing is, they teleported it from when it didn't just slide across the table. They went from here to here.
Well, you look at, like...
And it was almost fine.
Yeah. Well, you look at, like, the Tic Tac video from from David Fravor, from Captain David Fravor from, I think he was in the Navy, and they have a Tic Tac UFO going from 30,000 feet above sea level to 1 foot above sea level in less than a second. I don't think you can move that fast. Like, that's not movement at that point. That just is being from one place to another. Like, you're talking moving 6 miles in 1 second. That's just not doable.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's... I mean, you think about it, if you were to drop a rock, it's not falling that fast. If you stuck a rocket on it, it's faster than any jet we have. Like, it's not possible. So I don't think it's propulsion the way that we typically think of it with, like, exhaust and something pushing you forward. I think it just is going from one place to another. So we have... Again, I think this huge breakthrough in, I don't know if it was cold fusion that cracked the code or if they were able to actually back engineer or re-engineer this element 115, the Moscovium, or if they found a different method to do it using, like, anti-gravity and this, I think Mealing. I think it's all tied in together, and I think each little piece helped them get to where they're at. So now I think, again, with 2027 coming up and supposed disclosure or whatever this big event is, I don't know if the aliens or if there's, like, because there's this idea that there's, like, a federation of otherworldly entities that are, like, kind of keeping an eye on us to make sure we don't kill ourselves or that we don't get further out into space than we need to be until we're, like, chill and not gonna bomb these other people. So I wonder if part of that 2027 happening is them stepping in and being like, yeah, you cracked it, you don't get to keep it. Because you're either untrustworthy, or them stepping in and saying, hey, if you do anything out of bounds, we will just eliminate you as a species.
It, you saying that, it reminds me of something we were talking about last night with people saying Israel tried to launch a nuclear strike and it fizzled, and they're like, we were just testing.
Yeah,
But
it
that
was an
is what
on
they
purpose
said.
test.
The aliens would not let us, or the extraterrestrials, however you want to call them.
Yeah, whatever they
It,
are.
it came out, I mean, not long ago, in one of the files, that they would not let us launch these missiles and kill ourselves.
Yeah, well,
So
apparently,
kind of makes you wonder what really happened there.
There have been military guys that came out since they started doing this that are like, yeah, this craft flew over 10 separate nuclear missile silos and disarmed all of them just to make sure that we wouldn't launch. And it's not, to me, it's not showing that, like, to do that, it's not showing that they don't want us to launch. It's showing that they can do whatever the hell they want whenever they want, regardless of our security or our technology or whatever we think we're good at. They're just like, yeah, you can't do this. We're not going to allow it.
Yeah, to me, it's like watching kids play, and then the parents come in and be like, "Everybody, give me the scissors. We're not running with them."
Yeah, you let if he has a long stick, you let him hit one kid one time, and then you're like, okay, that's the end of this.
That's enough.
You've learned your lesson. And I think that's kind of what they're doing, is they're making sure we don't. And I don't even know if it's necessarily eliminate ourselves, but it's harm the planet to a point where it's not habitable for real life anymore. I think because of mutually assured destruction, if we all start launching nukes at each other, nuclear winter sucks, and there's not a lot living going on for, the next few thousand years. And I think that's what they're really trying to stop. I can't imagine they would care if we live or die, unless we are like their science experiment, and like
where their Sims game, and
sure, we're just an intergalactic television show. Like, watch all the humans be stupid. But I do think if they broke the teleportation, if we finally cracked it, I think for the next couple years we're going to have a little more interference than we're used to from these things that want us to stay here until we're not violent or until we're gone. And I think that's kind of, I do think the government knows that's the rule. I think they know we're not allowed to leave. And that's part of these, I mean, even going back to Gemini, we had 2 astronauts in space. 2 astronauts. It's really the first slow orbit, I guess, of us. And, even they saw something outside of their window that wasn't their booster. And NASA just had to release those files that the 2 astronauts were like, yeah, there's a large object out here. And NASA's response was, is it not your booster? And they're like, nah, it's beside the booster, which is terrifying for Gemini. And then Apollo, when they landed on the moon, they saw what they described as a craft that looked like a large open suitcase. They couldn't gauge how large it was, but Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong both reported to NASA when they were calling in, like, there is a craft out here that is not ours. So I really think they've been watching us for a while. Probably our entire existence. And probably since before we were people. Since we were, amoebas or crawling out of the sludge of the primordial soup. I think they have been here. And maybe they are because that's the other thing, is like, there are supposedly part of these disclosures in these files are that there are a lot of Air Force and Navy guys that have seen UFOs be transmedium, so they can go from in the air to in the water to outer space there's no resistance, right? So like they can go from air to water it's not like they're hitting water. They're not hitting anything. They're just going.
And we've talked about, even Christopher Columbus wrote about these.
So they think there are rumblings that there are large bases in the water. So again, maybe these are natural states of planet Earth. They're just something that's been here as long as we have, or longer, and they just don't want to be part of us. I don't know. It's a whole big, crazy thing.
Yeah, there's some thoughts that we're the extraterrestrials and they're the native Earthlings, so to speak.
So yeah, it has been a wild ride these past like 3 years. Because you have, I know it sounds crazy, but like Tom DeLonge from Blink 182 starting To the Stars Academy, which supposedly he had interactions with high-ranking NASA and U.S. officials that were telling about aliens. But it's Tom DeLonge from Blink 182. Like, who's going to take that dude seriously? Like, what? But because of that, it's brought so much weird attention to it that it's hard to parse out what's real and what's not, or what is part of like counterintelligence versus real intelligence. It's just all nuts right now. And I really do think, and most people that are in this community are kind of over it, until we see either a craft or an entity, like a biologic, no one cares. Like, no one believes any of this at all. Even if it's government paperwork from the 50s and 60s, they just don't give a shit until we see a body or a craft, because we've been lied to so much. To the point of where, like, even the idea of a conspiracy theory was a CIA idea to make people that thought this seem less credible. So, like, the whole thing feels like a giant conspiracy theory, except for there's weird proof, and these people really are disappearing, and it's real fucking odd.
Well, that's I didn't know any of this. All I knew is that a lot of people were saying that the alien files seemed like a whole lot of nothing, which makes sense because a lot of people are like, there's like nothing that specifically says like, hey, we found this little gray alien that speaks Cantonese at us and we're hanging.
Well, you deal with that, but you also deal with, like, people that are testifying in front of Congress that are saying, yes, they have recovered NHI, non-human intelligence. Yes, some of these craft were piloted by biologics. Yes, they were recovered. One was alive. I don't know where they took it.
Right. And there's people who are saying that some of these, extraterrestrial, or I don't know, I'm just going to say alien for want of a better word.
Alien's the right word.
That they're actually helping us and working with us. That there's pictures taken of the little grays, working alongside our scientists, and the little grays are guarded by the tall whites. Like, we sounded crazy a couple of years ago, Chris, and we turned out to be right. So,
well, you have things like, and when you really get into it, there was supposedly an alien named Valiant Thor that was from, I think, one of the moons of Jupiter, that was working at NASA for a bunch of years, and he was like 6'7", and he had 6 fingers on each hand.
6'7".
Yeah, but like, again, it sounds crazy until it's not. And I think about it like, if I was to go back 200 years in the past and tell those people that I'm going to have a cell phone in my pocket, explain to them that I'm going to be able to call anywhere in the world and talk to someone, they would think I was fucking nuts. It would sound crazy. But it's just time and technology. Yeah. And I think we're getting to that point where I think that the time for government conspiracies, with everyone not trusting the government anymore and cover-ups, is kind of gone. I think it's not 1950s McCarthyism anymore, where, is that guy a commie? America hates him. I think everybody just hates everybody now, and no one gives a shit.
I agree with that.
So it's just a different time.
Also, talking about this cell phone thing, think about, the theories of time traveling. And, there's pictures of people with their cell phones all the way back through history, and people just out of place, even a boxing match. But when you put it in perspective of what we talked about at the beginning of this episode, bending time and space to overlay each other, you can travel forwards and backwards.
I do think time travel is part of it. I think once you can control space time, because again, it's just a wave. Like, time is a wave. We understand that if it is a wave, there may be a way to ride it forward or backwards. To get on that wavelength, they'd be like, hey, I want to travel back 60 years. I don't think. I'm not sure that it's permissible in a universal standard to do that. I don't think. I believe that if there are societies and aliens or whatever that have been around for 100 billion years that are so far technologically advanced, so far forward than we are, they probably figured that out, that like time travel is a bad idea. There's no way to do it that
And
it
that's
doesn't
probably why they're
ruin
here
everything.
snatching people up. Like, hey,
Yeah,
we're taking this technology.
I think as part of it, I think as part of being able to, let's say, teleport, time travel is an inadvertent side effect of that we just kind of accidentally discover. And I think that's what they're trying to stop long term, is because I think it's such a bad idea.
They've come to get our sticks that we're hitting each other with.
Yeah. Well, I think, I mean, instead of sticks, we're banging like rocks together, and they see us and they're like, okay, they're on the verge of figuring out gunpowder. Let's fucking stop this right now before they get to that next step where they then escalate. Like, it'd be fine if, again, if you could teleport or whatever without time travel being a side effect of it, but I don't think you can. You're gonna fuck up the universe, all of it,
Yeah.
forever.
Think of like that spot where the island, and again, a name I can't remember, but nobody's allowed to make contact with them.
Well, that's the island off the coast of India.
Yeah. And I think that maybe the aliens see us like that, like they leave us alone so we can actually evolve without influence, but they're like, we're gonna have to step in.
North Sentinel Island.
Yeah.
Well, so even with North Sentinel, like, it's really interesting. Like, that's a cool case because, like, they weren't always that way. They used to let people on there, and then some weird English dude that had a really odd fascination with young boys' genitals and raping them showed up on the island, and he was, like, taking measurements and stuff of their genitals. And finally, the adults were like, this guy's gotta go. So they kind of kicked him out, and then were real aggressive towards anybody else that showed up because you kind of gotta be if you want to protect yourself. Because they assume everybody's there. Probably not gonna let a lot more white guys show up.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was, and now no one goes to North Sentinel. Like, you're not allowed on there. Leave the people the hell alone. They don't want you there.
And imagine
will
they
kill
look
you.
up and see a plane flying over. It's kind of like how we look up and see, the UAPs flying over.
Well, supposedly, I think back in the 30s or 40s, a plane crashed on North Sentinel, and they didn't understand it, but supposedly they were doing like ceremonies around it, so people think they were worshiping it or whatever. So they have seen like technology. They understand that there's, and again, they're not stupid. They've met people from other places. They know there's a world out there. They just don't understand it. So to them, it's just like really odd, but that's what we are. When we see, UFOs or whatever, we're seeing technology that we don't understand and that we can't grasp. Like, we just don't have the vocabulary or the mindset to understand what it is.
And the people who did grasp it, even no matter how briefly, they're gone. They've disappeared or committed suicide, quote unquote.
Yeah. Well, even with them, I'm not sure. I don't think they get the full picture either. I think they get to work on little parts of it together, but I'm not even sure they completely grasp the whole thing. But I don't know. Like, hopefully a lot of this comes out over the next year and we actually figure out what's going on, because it's fucking wild. Aliens.
Well, so is this going to be a two-parter?
I really want to get into like a lot of the actual releases and stuff, so we can do that next week.
That sounds good to me. Does that sound good to you, Angie?
Heck yeah.
Well, is there any parting words to be said?
Lock your doors at night. Don't fuck the aliens.
Angie?
When you look up at the sky at night, it is looking back at you.
Great. That's creepy as hell. Okay, guys. So, yeah, check us out. Are trying to figure out the audio issues, making sure everything sounds good. We are podcasting from 3 separate areas. Anyways, all right, guys. Thanks so much for coming. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Twitch. Hey, if you're watching right now, you're watching us on Twitch.
What is going on?
I'm muting you. It's the aliens.
I'm unmuting me.
All right. See you guys next time.
Love y'all. Bye.
Bye.
I actually have to hit the leave button. Okay, bye, guys.